Hi, everyone. My name is Chelsea Haaland. My professional gig is as a public school curriculum director. So, what that means is, in the simplest of terms, my full time job is training arts teachers and working with arts teachers to develop the curriculum that they are using with K through 12 students. Um, I also have spent a good majority of my career working with community theater as a director, performer, parent of a performer, which is also, I think, a really interesting and informative lens for examining some of our community theater practices. And I'm currently actually stage managing a production for one of our local community theaters. The workshop that I am presenting is called There's a Place for Us. Integrating new players in your community theater. And the heart of that workshop came out of a recognition, both in our school setting and in the community theater setting, that there are very easy moves that we can make to help people feel like they belong in a new space. And it is just as easy to make people feel othered in a space. So, in a world where we want to attract and recruit new volunteers to work backstage, new persons to audition on stage, we want professionals to come work with us and enjoy that working relationship and the culture we've cultivated again and again. But sometimes those moves are perceived to be such common sense that we forget about them. So, the heart of this workshop is really talking through some structures that you could start implementing tomorrow, immediately, uh, in your theater space, regardless of size, regardless of professional versus volunteer, regardless of age, that will help all persons feel like they are certain and clear of what your organization's values are, how they can be a informed player in promoting those values and living those values, and ways that we can respond to people and just understand how humans work, to treat them with dignity and help them feel seen. I had the opportunity to first present this session at the National Festival this summer, which was held in my backyard. So that was such an awesome experience. And because it was in my backyard and one of my first interactions with ACT specifically, sometimes you just don't know what people do or don't know already. Something I thought was really interesting feedback to hear from workshop participants after the workshop was done was some of our conversations around brain science and its ability, for participants to generate some empathy for the varying perspectives that are coming into a space. So, brain science sounds very heavy and very technical. I promise it will not be presented in that way. But the opportunity to just talk through cognitive brain development, and executive functioning and what that actually looks like in practice in your theater spaces, how that might look for a neurotypical person versus a neurodivergent person, how that might look for a child compared to a teenager, compared to someone in their 20s or someone in their 70s, and things that we can implement in our everyday interactions that will really help support people no matter what stage of cognitive development they are at. A lot of that was a very new and revelatory information for many participants that came, but it sounds like it was pretty impactful in generating the empathy that helped substantiate why integrating some of these moves is important. So, in my workshop, one thing I will start with is just the preface that I believe all community theater is educational theater. And I'm not sure if that's a hot take, if that, how people feel about that. But in my experience in a number of community theaters, anytime we have an open call for an audition or an open call for backstage volunteers, anytime we are offering outreach or educational programming, we are saying, hey, come, no matter your experiences, we will teach you. And then it is really easy for us to get so caught up in the urgency of putting on the production and getting things done that we forget that the humans that are responsible for getting things done can miss out on the sense of belonging that helps that to be a really positive experience for them. If they're very new to theater, we might forget to actually do the explicit teaching that helps them be successful. If they're new to your organization, but have done theater for a long time, many of us know that theaters don't all operate in the same way. So, what are the norms for your space? Do you know what they are? Are we able to articulate that to a new person so they know exactly what's expected of them? I think when people know the expectation on the front end rather than operating under a space of assumption or assumed knowledge, everybody gets to be more successful. And when everyone is equipped to be successful, that equals a culture that people want to come back to. So that's awesome for you and your community. But that also translates into really successful productions. And I know I mean, frankly, that's going to have an impact on your business model as well. So I think it's really important for all persons involved in a theater to have a little bit of training around some of those educational strategies that work with all ages, regardless of your role, because you're all responsible for the culture of the humans in your space. Short term, I think there will be a lot of small moves that are easily digestible to implement right away. Sometimes you go to a webinar or a workshop or a conference and you leave with so many big ideas that it can feel really overwhelming to implement. And a lot of this is, hey, here's a small move that you could do at rehearsal tomorrow if you're mid-process, or something that you can consider as you're getting ready for your next production, to hopefully make your interactions with other people as you, the individual, a more positive experience. Long term, I think there's probably potential for theaters to really have conversations internally, with their board or their staff or whatever group of persons are responsible for the success of that theater together, to talk through, do we know what our norms are? Do we know what we value in some of these situations? Do we know how we might respond when there's conflict or there's confusion, or there is an actor that said, post something on social media and says, gosh, I had a really bad experience there, don't work there. Okay, well, how do we intake all of that information, and what are all the things that we can do proactively rather than retroactively to ensure that we are creating conditions for success for everyone? It might have to do with things you have posted physically in your spaces. It might have to do with the way that we talk to people. It might have to do with the predictable structures that we're going to implement for what a rehearsal looks like and how we're going to use that time. But really, the long-term impact, I think, is anytime we can open the door to conversations that define clarity, we bring kind impacts for everyone.